Okay, I listened to Matt Dillahunty versus Andrew Wilson, uh, and they both have, I think, about a 10-minute opening argumentation for each side, and then Matt Dillahunty decided to leave the arena. Um, so I can only talk about the logic. That's really the only thing that matters to me. I'm looking at both people's argumentations. There's multiple fallacies in both opening arguments. There's a potential, if not outright, strawman fallacy because Matt Dillahunty is simplifying and perhaps oversimplifying and or misrepresenting certain aspects of Christianity. He's got limited time to cover Christianity, but still, it'd be probably better to focus on your own ethical structure and present a coherent argument for that rather than bother to go after the other one. Perhaps, I don't know. There appears to be some hasty generalization. Um, and he's pointing out this Mike Johnson character and conflating what he did as if that matters for the other Christians uh, when it doesn't. It seems like a lot of the time was devoted to complaining about what Mike Johnson has or hasn't done, which I saw is actually quite irrelevant to the topic at hand. There appears to be a potential, if not outright ad hominem, where again Mike Johnson is being attacked, which again has really nothing that I can tell to do with the debate. So this is again another red herring. Uh, there's a potential for, if not an outright false dilemma, that you have to between secular humanism and Christianity. But of course, that's what the debate is kind of about. So it's like, well, which one's better? Um, but it is a potential. The question itself might be framed incorrectly, and uh, setting up a potential false dilemma in the question of the topic of the debate um, might have not been the right framing for it. So because of that, there's there's some leakage of that into the opening argumentations of both people. And that's what I'm saying is a potential false dilemma. I don't think it's I don't know if it's I'm not willing to commit that it's an actual false dilemma because that's what the debate was agreed upon. But I think maybe the framing of the words of the debate could have been better. And then there does appear to be some or a lot of cherry picking or poisoning of the well, or both. Because Dillahunty's only focusing on the negative aspects of Christianity. Fair enough. He's trying to, but again, why not emphasize the positive points of secular humanism rather? I mean, attacking the foundations of the ethics of the other side, that could come later perhaps. I think that in your opening you need to establish that your system is good and here's why, and spend 5 minutes on that, then maybe spend 5 minutes on, well, their version is bad, or here or not as good as ours, here's why. And then that avoids showing, you don't have to necessarily show the bad parts per se. Although you could easily point out that Christianity, like many religions, is authoritarian based, and that there might be a problem with that, and you could go to DCT perhaps as a ethical issue, because that's what essentially Christians have to adhere to some degree to DCT, although not all do. And then you can make a case against DCT perhaps, although that too would have its problems. But nonetheless, those are some of the fallacies that Dillahunty had. On the flip side, what's his face? Yeah, Andrew starts by attacking the audience, which is really weird. Why do that? I don't understand that. It's like, oh, you guys are low energy. It's like, who cares? Like, don't need to point out what the audience is or isn't doing. It just has no bearing on the debate. It's not going to win you any favors. So, you might as well, hey, audience, you all stink. You haven't taken a shower and you all look ugly too. I mean, why not? Maybe don't mention the anything about negative about the audience. So that's just odd. Um, and so it's ad hominem and are completely irrelevant to the debate. But those are logical fallacies that he committed. So again, I guess like I said, false dichotomy as a possibility. You could see that. Again, I think this is really a framing issue of the question at hand more than anything else. I don't know. I'm teeter tottering on whether or not false dichotomy should be included or not. I'm not. It's a possible thing. Uh, Straw man, I think, is definitely here because his version of secular humanism seemed to go after Matt Dillahunty rather than secular humanism, because Matt Dillahunty he made the well, I would call this a character's attack, ad hominem attack on Matt Dillahunty regarding him saying something about that he would not make a law against 9-year-olds having sex. Uh, Nor would I suppose he would make a law promoting that either. I don't know when or where he said that. Some other debate. It's irrelevant. It is a poisoning of the well, and it is an ad hominem, and it is irrelevant. And it is also not secular humanism. So it's an attack on the person rather than the actual secular humanism. And so you're now conflating the two. You're saying what Dillahunty has, even if Dillahunty has promoted X, Y, or Z, that doesn't mean that that's secular humanism. Um, because a group that is attempting to adhere to secular humanism isn't necessarily going to be successful in doing that. So Matt Dillahunty might very well be the spokesman of secular humanism for all we know, but that doesn't mean that he's going to adhere to it. And in the same way that Andrew might try to adhere to Christianity values, but fail to do so. Him swearing and not turning the other cheek when he got insulted and so on. Those are not things that you would want a Christian to do, because those are not Christian values. So, but that doesn't matter. That an individual, even though they are representing the ethical system, might not fully adhere or correctly adhere to that ethical system. But nonetheless, it's a straw man. So, and then the things about gender identity and all this, I don't know if, and I don't think that secular humanism has anything to say about the gender stuff at all. I don't think that is even a thing that's covered, and it seems that what little I did glean of what secular humanism is from Matt's side is that there is no do's or don'ts per se. There's more like a guiding principle that you're attempting to follow. Um, what that is per se, I'm not totally clear on, which is another feeling of Dillahunty's opening, but no, that's without looking at it myself, of course. I'm analyzing this in independently from awareness of what secular humanism is or isn't, because that's how you have to analyze an argument. Um, Hopefully, and so I don't know that secular humanism has anything to say about gender identity, so that would be an irrelevancy as well as a straw man. It seems to have perhaps some appeal to consequence, uh, that authoritarian society would with restrictive laws would be better um, than not having that, but he didn't give us any evidence or address the insane potential negative consequences that would have. And also really isn't really Christian ethics uh, at all. So I'm not really sure why he went off into that tangent. This is another sort of red herring slash irrelevancy. That was very strange. It's an appeal to tradition, definitely, which is almost to be expected. Actually, I would expected more of this. Uh, you know that the traditional values are superior or better. But you need to have an argument for why that's the case. You need to show that they have provided better support in the past, or something like that. Otherwise, you it's just saying, well, these are our traditions, so we've held them for a long time. That doesn't make them true or valuable or better than any other idea. Then there's a lot of cherry picking, a lot of irrelevancies, potential poisoning of the wells, multiple wells, or well, I suppose. Uh, Poisoning of the wells. I don't even know if that's a poisoning of the well, and just tangents into insanity here because he's talking about Andrew's brought up gender identity and sexuality in order to criticize secular humanism, but who it, I don't know what one thing has to do with the other at all. And he doesn't make that association causation connection there. He doesn't show us how these things are connected at all, or anything of that nature. So it just completely doesn't matter. And then there's an appeal to ridicule. Um, he's just, oh, look at how laughable the worldview is. Yeah, that's nice. And what's your argument? It's like you could say the same thing about your worldview. And then there's a lot of argument from to or from analogy, um, and those just have no bearing and are centered around the transgender people, and who cares about any of that? So it's more relevancies, more red herrings, lots of appeals to emotion, although I think that might have been present on Matt's side a little bit. Well, no, actually less. No, I don't think so on that side. Actually, never mind. Strike that. Definitely on his side though. But he, describing secular humanists as lunatics or well, he seems to conflate transgender people with uh, secular humanists, which I they might be, but not all of them. So that's just I don't know. But he does say that this weird thing of that transgenders are what is it? Strange lunatics who will self terminate if not labeled appropriately. I would have challenged Andrew and said, "Do you have any proof of that assertion? Do you have any evidence that that's true? Do you have any examples of that ever happening at all?" Even though it's completely off topic of the debate, actually, I would say, first of all, uh, you know, no, that's nothing to do with the debate, and I don't know why the moderator didn't stop him. The moderator did nothing as far as I could tell, um, to stop either one, from going off topic. Uh, so well, you know, at any rate, so it's just kind of an appeal to emotion to use these languages of strange lunatics, or and talking about self-termination and things like this, more so it almost doesn't even matter that that's a fallacy that's in this argument, because it's that topic has nothing to do with secular humanism, so you're already off in the weeds. You're already in the red herring and straw man territory, irrelevancies. So the fact that you're doing another logical fallacy while you're doing a logical fallacy, I don't even know if it matters at this point. And there was nothing really said about the ideas of secular humanism. So there, it just kind of dismisses it in full. So he didn't really seem to dismiss or dismantle secular humanism, uh, or even attempt to do so, other than just say things that make fun of it, if you will. And So yeah, both people lost, logically speaking, on a purely logical level in their opening arguments. And I would love to talk about their rebuttals, but they don't have any because Matt quit. And a lot of people are saying things about that. Uh, uh yeah, it doesn't look good. That's all I've got to say. I mean, look, I have my flaws. I know my flaws. Um, my viewers that have been around that know me, or even if you haven't known me before, it's easy to find me somewhere where I lost my cool and I got angry. And for the most part, people have been pretty understanding about that. You know, um, even if they disagree with my views on whatever, like they understood why I got angry and they're forgiving about it mostly. Not all the time, but it's nice that people understand that that's a flaw I have and that I recognize, and I think I've gotten better with it over time and maturity, and I've learned a lot of things I can do to calm myself and to negate those that, and to avoid it and to step away for a moment and calm down and then return, and to have a break or whatever. So if I was going to do a live debate, or even if I was going to do a debate these days, or even when I do a talk, um, if if I feel myself getting upset, then I might say, look, I need a moment or two to collect myself, and then just put it on pause. And if it was a debate, I'd have it set up with the moderator, some signal I could give to them so they knew I needed a couple minutes to pause and recharge myself or whatever. Um, and that's what ideally, knowing your own flaws, whatever they might be, that you let people know ahead of time that might happen, you know. Um, so there's any number of things that Matt could have, perhaps should have done, in response to this. You guys said, look, listen, this is everything you brought up is irrelevant, has nothing to do with secular humanism, and therefore I'm not going to respond to it. And so your opening means nothing. You don't even have an argument. That would have been a decent response. And then just debate, what secular humanism is, or clarify and get him to understand, where he went wrong, or you know go off into the weeds about transgender stuff if you want to. Anything would have been better than quitting. And looking at the comments on the original video, a lot of people are like, "Yay, he won! Andrew won! Andrew won!" And even if Matt stayed, they might still be saying that, but definitely it doesn't look good, um, you know, for him. Whether it looks good or not for atheism, I don't, whatever. There's enough of us around that I don't think it's gonna matter that much. When one person rage quitting isn't gonna, Christians are gonna think they won, atheists are gonna think they won, no matter what, if we're using only emotions to decide. And that's why I think it's important for us to learn and understand informal and formal logic, but mostly informal logic. The formal logic is nice to know too, but a little less important for these sort of debates, and to analyze the debate and not the actions of any given individual, because Matt leaving looks bad, is bad, and also negates his ability to give any rebuttal to the opponent's opening argument, which is a shame because there was plenty to rebuttal. The opponent also had plenty to rebuttal, so that's not good. Um, it's understandable. People get upset. People have feelings and all that. Although I would say on my ethics is kind of sort of utilitarian ish, uh, with some idea of Kant thrown in. Kant had this idea about truth and that your duty should be to the truth, and I like that. Although I think Kant went too far with his version of it, where he's like, you have to tell somebody your bank account number or whatever. I'm like, nah, you don't. That he thought that not saying what that, sorry, concealing information was also lying to Kant, and I don't agree with that. I think that you're perfectly right to conceal information that's private, like your bank account or social security or whatever. But in an idealized world, if everybody always told the truth, then yeah, I guess you could, you know, tell your numbers and but then you'd also ask the person why they wanted to know that, so rather than answering the question, what's your bank account number, well, why do you need to know that, and why do you want to know that? And if everyone tells the truth, they'd be, well, because I want to rob you. Well, then I'm not going to tell you. I'd really rather you not rob me. I'll call the police upon you. And okay, well, but I'll give you my number, sure, but then you're going to go to jail because but then again, perhaps fraud in such a world would be impossible. I don't know. But at any rate, utilitarian ethics has its problems and flaws, and so I've modified mine to be different from the standardized version. Mine is do the least harm to the least amount of of living beings and creatures and plants, living things as possible, and then the most good that you can for living things as possible. And so that kind of includes the environment as well, because living things can't live if the environment sucks. So you set out to maximize the well-being of as many living beings as possible, and to minimize the grief and suffering of living beings as possible. And you're never going to get there, but that's the ideal that you strive for. And so that's a very simplistic ethical system, I think, and one that's easy to remember for me, and so that's why I picked that one. And there's plenty of other ethical systems out there. I don't know anything about secular humanism, um, but in my system, I would not allow somebody to cover money that I was going to get paid for doing something that I'm not doing. And that conversation was very odd to have happened. Matt said, I'll refund you the money, and then the other guy's like, oh, I'll cover it. He's like, okay, great, it's taken care of. Don't worry about it. And it's like, that doesn't. Well, if is that part of secular humanism? People are going to walk away thinking that that's part of secular humanism, even if it might not be, because Matt's the representation of human secularism in that debate. And in that moment, he's not being a secular humanist. He's just being an emotional human, independent from the ethical system that he might want to subscribe to. So that's how we should view that. But a lot of people, of course, in the comments aren't viewing it that way. They're viewing it as a win for the other guy because the one guy walked out. If their guy had walked out, would they view that as a win? Maybe, because you can do that when if you want your side to win, you can rationalize it if you don't apply logic. But when we do apply logic, we see both people failed, logically speaking. They both had multiple fallacies in their openings. What they do after that, okay, well, that's kind of a different topic. But one, we have to kind of address because it is weird, and that's why we're talking about it at all. Because if he hadn't walked out, I wouldn't even know about this debate, necessarily. It wouldn't, but it's on people's radars because, uh, you know, it's a thing. So maybe the poison well was the winner. Exactly. Yes, it was. Uh, for pickled herring over mustard. Yeah, red herring is a logical fallacy. Um, let's see. The mud fossil guy that Matt had debated earlier had him in a mood. Perhaps so. Yeah, maybe you should limit yourself to one debate a day. That might be a good idea. A world without lies would be a boring place. I don't know. Um, and then supporting Leo, who did a good job. I don't know what Leo did. Was the Leo the moderator there, or was somebody else? I don't know. I don't know who's running that, but yeah, the moderator could have, perhaps should have stepped in, but then again, it depends how you set up the debate. Well, pickled herring is red herring. Okay. But yeah, that's it. The analysis of that particular debate is nobody wins, everybody loses. Um, oh, Ryan's the mod. Okay. Right. Yeah. But anyway, so there you go. Everyone loses, no one wins on a logical level. Um, the rest of it after, and that's like 24 31 when I stopped. I don't see any reason to analyze anything else said after that, because it's going to be questions from the audience, and Andrew answering those questions, which, I mean, I can't really. There's nothing there to analyze per se, because those will be his answers to those questions, and not. They might indeed contain logical fallacies, but so too might the questions. So it'd be kind of weird to analyze that, and it's not part of the debate proper. So I usually leave those things alone. Um, a far cry from the Seitan Birkengate debate that Matt had, where he did really great, way back when. And of course, that's the most cherished video series I have on my channel, is the Seitan versus Matt debate, analyzed by myself and Karen S, who knocked that thing out of the park. She was amazing in it, epic person. Just owe her a ton of gratitude, and that thing was just amazing to see how many fallacies there were, and couldn't have done it without her, because she understood and does understand precept better than I do. And it does seem, on another unrelated note, perhaps, it seems to me that Andrew's probably a presuppositionalist from what he was saying. I caught hints of precept in there, because he was saying things like, I'll grant the godless worldview, because, like, how do you have logic without God? I'm like, oh, that's a precept thing. He's a preceptor. So, um, it's very, very likely that he might be a presuppositionalist. So, and if he was, I wouldn't debate him, because he's a preceptor, and I hate precept, and I'm not very good at debating precept, since I hate it so much. And the only thing you can really say about precept is it's just a circular. It employs circular reasoning, and it assumes its conclusion. So that's it. That's really all you can say about it. And the person, oh, how do you justify logic? That's not. It's not a thing you justify. That's not it. It's not how that works. Where does it come from? We invented it. That's where it came from. Us. Well, how does it work then? Well, we observe reality, and we made mathematical formulas. That's how it works. The mechanics of logic uh, don't need any metaphysical underpinning to them to function, but precept insists that it does, and then says, aha, you require God to have metaphysics. We win, because you can't win a debate without logic. And it's like, yeah, whatever. So I don't know. I'd probably go in, if I was to do it, with like the lobsterist, and be like, yeah, no, well, I agree. Yeah, God justifies all this, but it's actually the Lord that justifies it, not your God. Your God actually is explained by Laud, who revealed to me in such a way that I can't be wrong, that my deity is actually correct. And by the way, also, I have a secret word that will eat all the deities and all the gods. I will unleash a god-eating monster that will eat all the gods and deities out there, and then they won't ever exist again. And then I'll win this debate by default. How about that? And then I'll say Zuma, and I'll unleash all those creatures, and they won't be able to negate that, because I knew that was going to happen, because Law told me in a way that I could be sure that it would happen. Ha ha ha. Precept ultra for the win, and it'd be reducto ad absurdum. It wouldn't work, but not much does with precepts. So, all right. Pickled herring is not really a red herring, but in this context, it is, right? Yeah, let's talk about herring without talking about red herring. It's funny, because red herring, or any herring, doesn't even do what we think it does. The idea, the name of red herring was the idea was that you would use it on a trail to lead the dogs that were following you astray. And but it doesn't actually work. It doesn't actually make dogs lose the scent of you. so so the name of the fallacy isn't actually a good name. But it's stuck. So um, well, it is what it is. Anyways, oh, Lufus did 4 debates at DebateCon. Oh, that's what it was. It was DebateCon. Oh man, I don't know. I don't know how I feel. I don't know. I don't know about those cons. I don't know that I'd ever go. I don't know. It'd be cool to to be invited to talk. I'd just talk about logic though. I'd be like, all right, everyone, here's how logic works. Logic is good. Use logic to analyze all these arguments. And I'd be like, why was both of you committed multiple fallacies in your opening arguments? So you both lose. So now what? Now what do we do? That debate was that debate pointless? That both people lost? No, I don't think so. Because we learned something. We learned they both. We learned they both didn't make a good opening. They learned that hopefully. Um, so they learn something from it. The audience learning something. Well, I think we can learn what tactics don't work, what ideas are bad. That's something. So, debate con sounds like a con to me. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if maybe I'll make my own convention one of these days if I had enough money or something. And obviously we know what it would be called. D Decon. It'd be Deconverted Man Con or Decon. I don't know. I don't know. Only my friends can come, which is everybody I know on YouTube. So yeah, it'd be like I don't know, 15 people there. Good times. Anyways, that's it. That's all I got for this particular argument. Um, they both failed, so nobody won. Yay! Next, whatever. Let me know if there's something you want me to analyze. Um, and I mean, I could have done this as a recorded thing and gone over each point by point and taken a couple hours to do so, but I felt this way was faster, so. Yeah, you're down for a Bigfoot talk. Yeah, exactly. All right, guys, girls, robots, etc. Be skeptical and learn logic. Good night.